What is going on, everybody? It's your man Apollo, but I'm not rolling solo tonight. Tonight, I have a special guest with me. Tonight, I have my man Jeff. Jeff, say hello to everybody.
Hello. Thank you.
Yes, tonight, guys, we are going to be bringing y'all a very in-depth, comprehensive review from 2 points of view of an incredible movie we saw last night, 1917. We've had time to sleep on it. We've had time to dwell on it. I'm going to give my perspective from a perspective of a veteran. And then Jeff here will give us a perspective of a civilian. Or if you guys watched the recent episode of Unfiltered, by the way, go watch that video, regular ass person. So, without further ado, let's get it started. Before we get into it, Jeff, let's just give a quick overview. We'll just do like some pros and cons, and you're the guest. I'll let you go first. We'll do with the cons. You got to start with the negatives. What are some cons?
Really, the only cons, and there weren't many. I liked the movie a lot. Cons in it was sometimes the timeline seemed a little weird. But I feel like a lot of that was just an artistic choice because the way that they filmed it as, mostly just one long shot, there was very few moments where you could tell that there was a cut. But being filmed as one long shot, it was kind of just an artistic choice, I think, in the end to have some of the scenes go together, and it didn't really matter if 1 minute it was night and then 3 minutes later it was morning. It just kind of helped the story go along anyway. So it really, if anything else, it just made it like it kind of took you out of the movie for a moment because you're like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah.
But as an artistic choice, I think it worked and it wound up being cool. And the only other thing I think that about the movie is the German soldiers' accuracy.
Oh, that's my only con. That's Stormtrooper aimer there. That was horrible.
There's very few German soldiers that were able to shoot.
Yeah.
Well at all.
Which just shows why they lost the war, I guess. Hitler wasn't training them. But for me, that's the only con. That's Stormtrooper lame. I guess one of them made sense because he was drunk. But the other guy did hit him when he opened that door.
He got him in the head.
Yeah.
But, spoilers, by the way. Lots of spoilers.
Oh, lots of spoilers.
This is a spoiler.
If you ain't seen this movie, don't listen to this damn review.
Spoiler-filled review, yes.
Exactly. Outside of that, pros, I'm going to go with the cinematography as my big pro. Yeah. I love the continuous one shot. I think that takes guts. Especially in today's Hollywood. I counted 2 camera cuts. 2 obvious ones.
There was a few where it was like, you could kind of see how they could have had a cut right there. Like when it went underwater for a second, the screen fills with water. Okay, that could be a cut. But 2 obvious ones, that's it.
2 obvious, that's it. Yeah. And a movie that was over almost 2 hours long, 2 camera cuts. That is amazing. So that is it does make it unique. I enjoy, and for it to be a war movie. As a veteran, I'm a real stiffler for war movies or any movie about the military. I sit up there and critique it like that doesn't happen, that wrong, that is wrong, that sucks, that'll never do that, blah blah blah. Yeah. Another pro for me, I actually feared for the protagonist's life throughout the movie. It wasn't like a Jason Bourne show up, kick ass, and leave. Many times I feel like this guy could have died, and I thought he did die at one time. We'll get to that though. But outside of anything else?
Yeah, the heroism was really kind of realistic, and that it wasn't over the top. I mean, you didn't just see him going around shooting and killing Germans left and right. It was kind of sparse in its actual, what I would call quote unquote action scenes. Yes. But the drama and the storytelling of the long cuts, of just the following, one or two characters around for 2 hours.
Amazing. Just amazing.
Made for really great storytelling. Yeah, it was really good.
Definitely. So now, guys, we're going to get into the movie from beginning to the end. Buckle your seatbelts. This is going to be a good ride. I hope you guys enjoy this. Remember, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it, comment on how great Jeff sounds in this video. And without further ado, let's get it started. So, the movie starts out with what? They're just like a battalion or something laying in the field, and we have Lance Corporal Blake, played by Dean Charles Chapman, and Lance Corporal Schofield. If you guys look at any videos, you know by now I butcher the hell out of these names.
Well, it's funny. His name.
Yeah, to like the end. Yeah, you don't even know his name. But Corporal Blake gets tasked with doing. They were like sleeping, I guess, intermission. He gets tasked with a detail, and he has to find a partner to do this detail with him. And he picks Corporal Schofield because he's right there. And for anybody who's been in the military, when you get tasked to do a detail, you think you're going to go do something like ammo guard or get chow or, anything, but they have to go see the general. And the general is played by Colin Firth, General Aaron Moore. He's more Aaron. If you guys don't know that name by heart, General Aaron Moore or Colin Firth is the gentleman from the Kingsman movie. He's the guy that recruits Exy. If you guys want to know, we'll put a face to a name. He tasked Corporal Blake with the mission. He has to send a message and get it to Colonel McKenzie and to his brother, Lieutenant Blake, to call off the next day's attack on the Germans who have basically retreated. It looks like they're giving up. And Colonel McKenzie is going to move in and pretty much go for the kill. So it comes across from intel that this is a trap, and pretty much if Colonel McKenzie's men progress through, they're going to die. So movie starts there, and this is where that great cinematography shot comes in for me. They don't cut. I think the first hour, you don't see an obvious camera cut, which is amazing.
Yeah, you start just following the two main characters through the trenches. And another thing that this movie did really well was just kind of show the nightmare of what trench warfare looked like.
Exactly. And something that I pointed out that I don't know if you paid attention to, but when they were going through the trenches, damn near everybody was smoking a cigarette. And I can attest to that because my first tour, we would be on patrol, we pop cigarettes in. It's just what you do. It's just when you're in the military, you just become a smoker. I don't smoke anymore. But in the military, I started smoking. I picked it up. And I was just like, man, that's very accurate. How there's just everyone smoking. And, of course, you got some guys sleeping. But let me say that I am very glad we don't do trench warfare like that anymore. I'm glad combat is totally evolved. I can dig that.
Yeah.
Totally. But we start our journey. They get their assignment. They have, less than 24 hours to get this message to them.
And someone helps them out. They give them a flare and kind of tell them the route to get to the German front lines where the German trenches are. So they start off having to make this journey across no man's land, and they have to follow the stench of the dead horses to get over there. And then you get your first real kind of gross out, shocking scene.
Dude cut his hand on barbed wire, and as they're just like dead bodies.
This is like some rusty, nasty barbed wire. He grabs it, he's holding it for his buddy, and
I got that immediate pain, like, ooh, you just felt that. And then at one scene where they're going down like in this deep mud trench thing, and the guy slips and his hand that got cut falls inside of a dead body.
So he just cut his hand on barbed wire and it immediately sticks it into a decomposed body.
Disgusting.
It was pretty gross. It was so roast, it made me laugh a little bit. And being that this is still the first 10 minutes of the movie, I realized that me and Apollo were the only ones laughing in the theater in that scene. We didn't really catch on to the tone of the movie yet.
Yeah, not yet.
But
I still
we
think
all
it's
kind
funny.
of got a little bit of a shock chuckle
I still think that scene is hilarious, but yeah, Bullseye, and Mr. Ed were dead all across the field, dead bodies everywhere, and I'm thinking, man, it's cold outside. They're going through all this mud and water. Like I feel for these guys. Like, I've been in the field when it's that kind of weather conditions, and it sucks.
muddy and
Yeah,
nasty.
and
And we did a great job. I saw they were making the movie, and a lot of he uses quite a bit of filters and stuff
yes.
to represent the kind of foggy, always kind of gray, greenish gray look of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they get through all that, and then they get into what looks like where the German trench was. They get through all the dead bodies and the decomposed land, and they get to where the German trench, I can't talk, was, and they get inside there, and we see a bunch of bunk beds and giant New York-sized rats. Just, I wondered, were those live rats or were they CGI? I really wonder. Can you train a rat? Maybe. Like, do they have rat trainers out there? Like, they train a rat. These rats were just all over the place, and then Corporal Blake sees a tripwire, and they proceed with caution. And what happens on those damn rats? My first thought was, what are the rats going to mess up this movie? But last year we had a rat save a movie in Avengers Endgame. So I'm like, we need that rat back because we have this rat that's going to mess up the movie. So the rat.
What did the rat do in Endgame?
He ran across the little module thing of the quantum realm thing, and he brought out Ant-Man.
Oh yeah.
Ant-Man was gone for 5 hours, but plus 5 years. So the rat was the real hero of that movie. Yeah, exactly. So in this movie, the rat is clearly the villain because the rat, the tripwire wasn't that damn low, but I mean these rats were huge. They had big booty rats. So he tripwire, and then the explosion made me jump. I was like, boom! I was like, oh, I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah. Blows up the tunnel that they're in and buries Schofield.
Yeah, right under everything. I thought he was dead. So now I'm thinking, oh man, Blake has to go the rest of the movie by himself and get this message to his brother and Colonel Mackenzie. But he has to get him from under the rubble. He has dust all in his mouth and his eyes, and this German whatever starts collapsing in. But they do make it out. But the tension of them probably. Yeah.
Which they showed that in the previews.
Yeah.
That is one thing about the previews of this movie did kind of give away some of the key moments in it. I feel like.
True. But I think it was still good. Yeah.
It's still definitely worth seeing. I mean, it didn't spoil everything, but there were some moments where, okay, you see him buried in the rubble, and if you saw the preview, you saw him covered in dust and having to make that jump, and that was coming.
Exactly, and be mindful, guys. We still have yet to see a visible camera cut. It's still a continuous shot, and we're about 20, 30 minutes in the movie
until that blast. Once that blast went off, everything kind of went dark for just a second.
Yeah,
you could tell that was probably a
camera cut. Yeah, but if you blink, you'll miss it literally. So they make their way from out of there. They have to stop and regroup. Schofield has to get all the dust out of his eyes, and they have to pretty much use each other's water to get him back, compose himself and stuff. And is this where they kind of have that disagreement? Like he was like, "You always like, why'd you pick me? Why'd you pick someone else?" It was this part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, before they got to that, I guess that farmhouse.
Blake kind of explains to Schofield that he didn't know what the mission was going to be, that he was just told to pick somebody, and he chose him because he was just laying right there. And
they shoot the flare too.
And they shoot the flare. Yeah. The flare was to let the British troops know that they
Yeah.
made it across the German
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right.
lines,
Yeah.
and that the German lines had indeed been vacated because there had been a little bit of debate as to whether or not the Germans were still holding those trenches or not.
Exactly. So they get through that and they come to this field with these what kind of like an orchid field, but they're kind of like all everywhere like dead. I wasn't sure what kind of flowers he said they were, cherry orchids or something. I don't know flowers like that.
I thought maybe cherry trees, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so they find this abandoned farmhouse and yeah, it's like one live cow there, and then Schofield finds some milk and he drinks it with his nasty barbed wire ridden hand. Uh oh. We're not even cutting that. We're gonna let that stay in there. But they see three planes in the sky, and two of them are British allies, and of course one is a German. And then the German plane gets shot down, and this is the one scene that you see in the trailer where that plane comes at them, and the plane kind of like crashes through a part of the farmhouse, and they go and save the German soldier. To me, I thought that was a questionable decision, not by movie standards, but them. Maybe their morality kicked in. Like we can't let this guy sit there and burn.
They just see another guy
Yeah, so
burning and writhing in pain, so they pull him out of the plane.
yeah, he's like legs are on fire, but when they start dragging him away, that his legs, the fire goes out, and then they lay him down and they're like, get him some water. So Schofield goes to get him some water from like the little well pump.
Between Schofield and Blake,
Yeah,
because Blake was like, I wish you just put him out of his misery, but he gives in and goes to go get him some water.
the water at first did it not look sewage like? It was like brown, like shit water. Yeah. But while he's getting water, you see Schofield turn around and he's just like, no. My initial thought was he caught Blake killing this guy instead of, I guess, Schofield wanted to keep him alive and get some intel. But the camera pans over, Blake gets stabbed right in the stomach, and Schofield has to shoot the German guy. And this is where the emotion for me really kicked in. And this guy Blake is just bleeding out. And when I saw all that blood, I was like, if they keep this movie legit, there's no way this guy survives, which sucks. But yeah, dude bleeds out, man, right there. Yeah,
To die so quickly, and then Schofield basically has to carry on the mission. But it's a very dramatic scene. Both actors did a great job, and Blake, has some dying words to Schofield where he wants him to tell his mother some certain things.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid, and
he wasn't afraid.
And Blake has to break the news to him that he is dying. Schofield has to break the news to Blake that he actually is dying.
And Blake's like, talk to me, because you don't want to die and just die in silence. And he just, out of nowhere, he just dies. That scene really hit me emotionally. I've never had a friend die in my arms, but I have had friends commit suicide. But man, the emotion of that scene really shows you, like you said, what war is like, And you think you probably think if you're in a position that Schofield's in, if you could rewind time, you probably let that German soldier burn in that plane and die. Yeah.
Your trust in humanity gets immediately questioned because you just save someone from dying and then they stab you, and that's just why you shouldn't trust Germans.
Yeah.
In 1970.
Yeah. Hell Hydra. Hydra started early. But this was the first of two decisions in this movie where I felt like Schofield really should have just killed the German soldier when he had the chance. But I think he had so much morality about him, he didn't allow that. So he is trying to drag Blake's body and gets pitted against a wall, and then another company rolls up, and then
And this is the first time in the movie where I feel like the timeline is kind of treated weirdly by the continuous shot because, all of a sudden there's this whole another unit there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking, I don't know, 50 guys.
Yeah.
And they all pulled up in vehicles, but they never heard the vehicles come.
Yeah.
There was just gunshots.
Yeah.
No one was like on the ready or, seemed worried about it.
Yeah, they were just like, you need help, man. They're like, yeah, they just started helping him. And I guess the unit, they had a commanding officer, but the one that speaks to him is Captain Smith. He's played by Mark Strong. For guys who can't put a face to a name, Mark Strong most recently played Dr. Savant and Shazam, so you guys know. So he's in this movie.
So the bad guy in Kick-Ass, that was probably
that
the role that I was really
and he was in Kingsman as well.
Kingsman.
He was like the Agent Q character, the tech guy.
He was hilarious. I thought he was great.
He really was. He's a good actor. Yeah. The guy got some range. But Captain Smith tells Schofield, we could take you part of the way to where you're going because we got to go on the way. Then we got to drop you off and you have to go the rest of the way. And the emotion stays because as Schofield gets in the back of the rear truck, you could just see it in his face. Like he just lost his friend that he was going on this mission with. And he has to continue this mission. And he just lost somebody right in front of him, died in his arms. And everybody else in the back of the truck is just shooting the shit, smoking cigarettes. And laughing and joking.
Stories.
Yeah.
He's just very much kind of alone.
Yeah.
Surrounded by all these other guys. But, he's just deep in his own kind of misery.
I really felt for him in this situation. Like, that was my first... Like, I didn't tear up at this part, but I just felt very, very emotional. And then their truck gets stuck in the mud. So, Schofield gets out. He takes charge. Like, we got to push the truck, mate. And it's a horrible British accent. It didn't say that. It was great, yeah. They have to push the truck, and they're just like, so they get the truck moved, and he hops in. And it seemed like they only drove another 50 feet, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Timeline.
Yeah, he didn't seem like he was in the truck long.
No, it wasn't in the truck very
but he probably was realistically.
When they got to that city.
Yeah, realistically, he was probably in the truck by a couple hours.
Right.
But
yeah, he rallied all the troops to get and kind of showed his leadership abilities there.
Yeah, and I don't know if that one guy with the beard was an interpreter, but I guess even back then they had Terps. Because we had. Yeah, we had Middle Eastern Turks. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. But I'm like, why Middle Eastern Turk and they're fighting the Germans? Like, it made sense for us in Iraq and Afghanistan because that's their language. But
it could have just a British citizen.
Yeah. But I will tell you this, a fun fact. A lot of Turks know many different languages, which is why they're interpreters. That's why we get them. They know more than just their native language. So I assumed he was a Terp because his uniform was kind of different, and he has that personality. The Terp is one they really like to talk and engage with the troops. I loved our Terps. Our interpreters they're fun guys. Yeah, for the most part, yeah. They get citizenship. One of them has citizenship here, and he lives down in Austin. Yeah. I haven't ran into him in almost 10 years, but I remember his name. So they get to a point where Schofield gets dropped off. Yeah.
Over the bridge through the city, but the bridge is out, so he has
I really thought he was going to go in the water.
He says, I don't have time to go around. I got to go on my own.
I got to go through. I thought he was going to walk through the water because, man, how deep is it? But it's cold outside. But I thought he was going to have to say, screw it, let's do it. So he pretty much goes alongside the bridge railing. And as he gets to jump across the water, he starts getting fired at. And I'm like, my first thought was, where was this guy firing at him when that unit drove by. They did not hear them?
And this is the timeline thing again, and I think it's just an interesting choice that the
Yeah.
director made was to, he's just telling a story, and um, it doesn't always make total sense. Like he literally just got dropped off at this bridge,
Yeah.
and 30 seconds later is being shot at, but that unit he was just with has already moved on. They
Yeah.
they don't hear the shots
Exactly.
or anything like that. So it's just I think that's just a kind of an artistic choice that the director made,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
Very interesting. But I don't know. I don't think it was a big enough issue to make the movie, fail for me. But he gets into that building.
Yeah, so they start having a firefight.
Yeah.
They're exchanging shots back and forth, and he's kind of been pinned a little bit on a stairwell, and finally was able to land a shot himself and incapacitate the German. And then he approaches the building carefully, firing shots to
Yeah.
kind of providing his own suppressive fire in a way until he can get into the building.
Yeah.
And makes his way upstairs and approaches the door where the German soldier is behind it. And he doesn't know, is he dead, is he alive, or what.
Yeah.
Kicks the door open, and they're both on the ready and
Yeah.
shoot each other.
The German guy was on the ready in like a dead position. He was just like sitting there. I thought he was dead, and you just hear the bang. So he catches Schofield in the head, but Schofield catches him, I think, in the chest.
Yeah, I think,
He got him. But we get our first legit camera cut
Right.
at this point because Schofield's blacked out. Yeah, for a while.
He's
Because
wearing a helmet, so he gets. I think he got shot. Do you think he got shot in the helmet, or?
well, his head was bleeding, so I think it grazed him really good.
Okay.
But when he got shot, it was daytime, and he wakes up. It's nighttime. We don't get any idea how much time passes, but man, I'm pretty sure it's a significant amount. So he wakes up, and my first thing that I said was, "Man, take that German guy's ammo. Take his ammo."
Yeah, we might have been. I thought that too, but I played too many video.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You gotta loot that ammo, man. Get that. Take his rifle or something. Do it well. But he winds up going through like these ruins because the Germans start shooting flares or something.
Well, yeah, and that was a really interesting scene and very pretty scene to watch, and it's kind of surreal because the Germans are shooting these flares to kind of light up these ruins, and he's having to walk through the ruins.
Yeah.
But the way the flares light it up, the flares are so bright and it's dark out, and so they cast these really extreme shadows. There's tons of contrast.
Yeah.
And here we probably have some cuts in the movie, as well, because the screen does go black from time to time.
Yeah.
But it's seamless, and you really can't tell. It's still just kind of, so now you start following him through this rubble that's kind of being lit for 3 seconds at a time as the flares are kind of shooting up in the air. And once again, he starts getting shot at, and he kind of snaps into reality. Like, oh, right, I'm still in.
Well, remember that soldier walked out, and they stared at each other for a second, almost like the soldier was like a ghost. And Schofield's looking at him. He's like, "Is he real?" And then German guy just standing there, and he slowly pulls his rifle up and is like, bang! And Schofield's like, first of all, here's the first example of stormtrooper level aim because the dude's just standing there, and Schofield just turns around and starts running.
I think that was a good example, though, kind of the fog of war and how you don't really, he kind of loses track of where he is and what he's doing for a moment, I think, because he's just kind of stunned, and he sees somebody in the dark, and he isn't really sure what to do.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, dude's running at him and shooting at him.
Yeah.
But lucky for him.
Yeah, he's not a good shot. He gets away. He finds his way into a little cubby area. He kicks a door in or something, a trap door. Yeah, he just happens to find this Hollywood magic man right there. Kicks it in.
Telling you gotta get the story moving. And,
yeah.
So I think the director just kind of used that as a segue into the next scene. But he take that door in and got down into the basement. Whatever building that was.
German woman. She was French. She was French.
So I think fighting the Germans.
Oh, okay.
It's British fighting the Germans.
Okay, and
in French.
yeah,
Yeah, I
okay.
think that's the deal.
Maybe in there, but it wasn't hers. And I was like, I felt for this. Is another emotional moment for me.
Yeah, that was
I felt
cool.
for this woman because my thing is, how long has she been in there, and did she live in this area when it was destroyed? And is she the only surviving person with this baby? And of course, he's in there. I really thought they had a moment where they were like going to kiss or something when she was tending to his head.
I was like, do we really need a love interest in this movie right now? So thankfully they didn't really go that route. I mean, she kind of takes care of him a little bit and helps, patch him up a tiny bit. But something earlier in the movie when they were at the farmhouse and there was the plane wreck and all of that, he had found a fresh pail of milk.
Yeah.
He had filled his canteen with milk, and so that kind of comes into play in this scene
because the baby needs milk, and he gave her all his food. It was very nice of him.
Yeah.
Chivalrous. And she's like, the baby.
Yeah, and he just happened to have milk, so.
Coincidence.
Yeah, that worked out.
I think not. But so he gets his wounds healed, whatever.
She tells him how to get to the river, which is his kind of next waypoint.
Checkpoint.
Checkpoint, yeah, his save point. He's got to get to the river, and so she kind of tells him, or he's got to get to the woods.
Yeah.
She tells him to follow the river to the woods.
Exactly. And he gets out of there, and then this is the part where I feel like he questioned his morality came into question. He trusted humanity too much. He's walking with his rifle, and he sees that one drunk German soldier. So he's going to take a different approach, try to sneak up on him. And as he takes a turn, another German soldier walks out, and his head is right in the line of his rifle, and his eyes get big like, oh, and it's just like this moment, like they both see each other like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, there's some confusion because it's like, you kind of expect him to just immediately shoot him or stab him or something, but, there's hesitation. He hesitates for a moment and then pins him up against the wall.
Yeah, he's like, hush, don't say a word. And the German guy's like, okay. He shakes his head like, okay. As soon as he moves his mouth,
Yeah, so that was one kind of unbelievable moment in the movie, I think, was that he, trusted a German. Because earlier he didn't trust the one injured German.
Yeah.
So why would he just believe that this younger German soldier is going to go along with him and not reveal his, location?
But his fellow German colleague was so drunk he didn't hear him. So Schofield has to choke this guy out. And then this is where I have to tell a little insert story here. The other German guy sees him, and Schofield gets up and like Derrick Henry stiff arms him and runs away instead of killing him. But
he's got a bayonet on him.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He leaves his rifle.
Now
here's a story plug, guys. There's a story plug. Back in basic training, we were doing a ruck march. And we were going to one of the hills. Anybody that went through Fort Knox, you know about misery, agony, and heartache. You know all about these hills. So I don't remember which hill we were going. I think it was Heartache because that was the steepest one. Yeah, I know. Great names for hills, right? Because they are exactly what they are. Misery, agony, heartache. And we stopped to rest and pull security. And at the time, during basic, I was one of the squad leaders. So I went to go get some water from the water buffalo, which is the water tank, what they call it. And I left my rifle. I set it down to go get some water. And I come back. I asked the guys that were by me, I'm like, where's my rifle? And they're like, we don't know, man. And then I turn around, and one of the drill sergeants has my rifle. Oh, he taught me a lesson, man. And he's like, hey, Private, did you leave your rifle? I was like, yes, drill sergeant. He's like, all right. It's time to get fucked up. So for the rest of the rock march, up the hill, I had to run around the entire formation with my rifle. I had to run up to the top in the very front, and turn around and just like run around. So I'm going from the top of the hill back to the bottom until the entire company finishes the ruck march up the hill. And I still have to run around the rest. And I had to finish cover. I was so dead tired. I 5 feet quarter my rifle to me the rest of the basic training.
Right.
I said I'll never do this again. That was I'll never forget that experience. Drill Sergeant Mendham, thank you. Shout out to you again. So Schofield runs away. He leaves his rifle for, I guess he just, his adrenaline's running. He's not thinking. And he gets chased by 2 German soldiers. Another one pops out. And they're shooting at him. And stormtrooper aim. They're not hitting him. Now, anybody that's here that's listening knows how to shoot. Shooting a moving target is hard. And mostly from left to right, or from zigzagging. This guy was running in a straight line. Not zigging, not zagging, nothing. No juking. At one point, one of the German soldiers even stopped, got in the prone and shoot, and he still missed. I'm like, you guys suck. This movie's credit should be moving right now.
On German soldiers, they were.
Oh, really? Yeah. They're kind of like a Nazi.
Yeah.
That's funny because
that's where they got the inspiration. They were like,
does not approve. He's looking at us.
This is true.
He's like, what? Really? He's gonna force choke us right now. But he gets chased and he jumps into like the river, and I'm like, oh my god, it's damn near like dawn, coldest part of the day probably, and that water has to be balls cold. Yeah. And he's already like been through the shit, so he gets drifted away. Goes down like another waterfall, kind of.
Yeah, he even fades in and out a couple times.
Yeah,
he's,
he was drowned at one point.
Consciousness a little bit just from exhaustion.
Yeah, I can feel his pain. Yeah. I just know he like had to latch onto a branch, but he gives himself. And then this is the part of the movie that got you. In order to get to land, he had to crawl over dead bodies.
Yeah, so there had kind of been some dead bodies damming up on this branch that had fallen into the water. And that was his one real chance to, pull himself up onto shore, was having to pull himself across these floating dead bodies. And it was pretty brutal. It's a pretty brutal scene. I mean, there's a lot of scenes in this movie that are brutal just from the death and just how rough it was to go through that kind of experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely probably the hardest scene to watch in the movie, was him crawling over dead bodies to get up onto the banks of the river.
And you got to think about it at the time. He can't even really pay attention to this because he has to get this message to Colonel McKenzie and his unit, or they're all going to die. With it like a battalion size amount of soldiers, and anybody in the military knows a battalion is huge. So he gets to shore and he comes across a unit, and like this guy is singing some kind of Irish song or something.
Yeah,
really?
It was just kind of one of those like
one guy was singing and everybody was sleeping because nobody was moving. Then I saw a cigarette smoke. I was like, okay, they're just sitting there watching this guy.
Yeah, there's a guy singing in the woods there, and he follows the sound and finds the unit. And yeah, it's just one of those. I probably should know the name of this song if we're going to talk about it.
Really?
It's just one of those like British wartime songs, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going home to see my father.
Yeah.
And just kind of a sad, somber song.
This is the one point I thought Schofield died. He came up against a tree. No one has heard him or saw him walk up while the song was playing. They were all like wrapped in the song. And he comes up, sits down, leans against a tree, and he just doesn't move. He doesn't blink. I thought this was the point where the movie, like, and then you kind of hear like sad music. So I'm thinking, oh man, this is where the movie's going to end. He dies and he doesn't get the message. He doesn't make it.
That'd be so brutal.
Man. I'm like, well, he dies a hero's death. He died trying. Mm-hmm. You feel for the guy, but he's so fatigued, and the soldiers in the unit are like, hey man, do you need some help? Are you all right, guy? Like he says, I'm looking for, what was the unit called? I don't remember the name of the unit. I can't remember something. He found who they were looking for, and he's like, I need to find Colonel Mackenzie. And he's like, he's down there in the thing. So he like gets the trailer starts pumping. He's like, I gotta get the message from here. So he starts running, and he's running through these war soldiers, and then he has to keep asking these different people, "Where's Colonel Mackenzie?" And everyone's like, "He's over there. He's over there. He's over there. He's over there." I'm just like, that's not military shit, like army shit. Where you're looking for someone, and someone's like, "Nope, he's over there. Nope, he's over there." No one wants to deal with you. Sounds like the S shop. Shout out to the S shop. If anybody works in the S shop.
And of course, no one really knows why he's there, and so
They don't even care.
they're all kind of annoyed that he's even
Yeah.
running around asking these questions and pushing his way through people.
Yeah, because they got a job to do. And he finally gets to Colonel Mackenzie's little dugout area, and there's two soldier guards because he's the colonel. You're gonna need two guards just in case they're infiltrated. Like no one's getting in, and he like throws them off. And the shot of adrenaline, he walks in, he's like, Colonel Mackenzie, stop this! And then turns around, it's Doctor Strange, everybody. Benedict Cumberbatch is Colonel Mackenzie. Benedict Cumberbatch is, I never knew how good of an actor this guy was until I saw him in Sherlock.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then I see him do Doctor Strange. British actors really know how to mask their British accent when they do different voices.
Yeah, his American voice. His American voice is a little nasally, almost like a Doctor House.
I mean,
That's the same kind of thing. He's also, the guy that plays Doctor House is also a British actor, but to me it sounds a little nasally, but no, he's fine. He's a good actor. I like Benedict Cumberbatch quite a bit.
I think he's like a new flavor cucumber, Cumberbatch. So he tells Colonel Mackenzie, I have an order from the general. You must stop this attack. And then Colonel Mackenzie's like, no, we have them on the ropes. We will attack. He's like, I have a direct order. And he reads the orders. And he, as he's reading this order, there was a part where he got out of the trench and ran across the front lines as soldiers, like the first wave was charging. And he kept running into soldiers. I'm like, that's authentic. Like, it wasn't like, this is where I'm like, you feel for the guy. He kept running right.
Right, because on his way to Colonel Mackenzie, he's got to take a shortcut kind of across the open no man's land area.
Risking getting shot.
Blown up with mortars.
Artillery rounds are just falling and firing everywhere. And the first wave goes. So Colonel Mackenzie tells the major, fall back, call the attack, gather the wounded, and treat everyone. And then Colonel Mackenzie walks up and tells Corporal Shuffle, he's like, one day they're telling me to attack, another day they're telling me not to. He tells him, thank you. Then he tells him, now fuck off. Yeah, I don't know if we ever have. The way he said it, he's like, fuck off.
Yeah. And I like, too, that they didn't have him in the movie for very long. I mean, that was just like a 2 or 3 minute scene with Benedict Cumberbatch. And that they chose these kind of lesser-known actors for the main characters, I think, is a good idea, too, because it gets you kind of engrossed in the story more.
Yeah, it gives them some shit.
It feels less like a Hollywood movie and more just like an original, interesting story.
It was a great movie, too. So we get everybody back, and then we see one of the most gruesome scenes of the movie, the mass casualty station, where... You guys' legs are blowing off, arms are missing, just wounds everywhere. And now that he's delivered the message to Colonel Mackenzie, he has to fulfill Corporal Blake's message and find his brother, Lieutenant Blake. So he's walking around, he's looking, he's screaming for him, and then he finds him. He's like, Lieutenant Blake, and Lieutenant Blake, he has to do it. He has a job to do. He's like, do you need medical attention?
Your British accent is spot on.
I think it sucks, but I'm going to keep working on it. He's like, no, I'm here from the Ace. He's like, the Ace? Yeah, I'm with did you know my brother? Yes, Lance Corporal Blake. He's like, and you see this like brief moment of excitement on Lieutenant Blake's face. He's like, my brother's here. And then he's like, he's here, right? And he's like, I was with him to deliver this message. He didn't make it. And in that moment, I feel for Lieutenant Blake because he just came off the high of adrenaline of being in the first wave to attack the Germans, fall back, Now you have to tend to all these wounded troops, and then he just got the news that his brother did not make it. That emotionally has to really just cut so deep. And then he has to tell, Lieutenant Blake, can I write your mum? Or excuse me, your mum. They say mum. He just shakes his head, and he gives him, was it like 2 rings and a set of dog tags to his brother?
Right, yeah, that he had taken off of
his taken off
dead body.
Yeah, and you just see the emotion in Lieutenant Blake. But Lieutenant Blake has to carry on and do his job. He shakes Colonel Schofield's hand. He tells him get medical treatment, and carry on. And then
that was probably one of the most emotional parts of the movie.
Definitely,
because you're watching this guy find out that his brother just got killed, and he is kind of welling up, but at the same time is trying to not just break down and sob.
Yeah,
in front of Schofield. So it was a really strong and poignant moment in the movie when he hands him the dog tags and the rings, and you just see him try to kind of keep a stiff upper lip and carry on
as he has to. In that moment, man, I know for a lieutenant, man, they have to keep their head because they're leaders. And in wartime, lieutenants, they're the leaders. So they gotta be composed, because if they're not composed, your troops will not be composed. And then we see Corporal Schofield walk to a tree, and we finally see what's in his little metal case that he's been looking at throughout the movie. Mm-hmm. And it's a picture of his wife, and was that a child?
I think it was a child.
Yeah. And then on the back of one of the pictures it said, "Come back to us." And in that moment, I felt his pain, because when I deployed, especially my first tour, I had pictures of family, notes and letters, and they always had, in there, "Come back to us, come back, please come back, we love you, do what you can, but come back." And like you said, it gets to a point where he won, but the fight's still not over. Not over.
Across was that even in wartime, if you complete your mission, it might not feel that great still, because all the loss that he had to go through, and just the horror of everything that he went through to complete the mission. It wasn't like he just got a pat on the back and feels good now.
Yeah.
It's still just awful.
Yeah, you still have other things to do. And
this was interesting too, because he's leaning up against the trees by himself. I think just kind of taking a moment, to rest, because he finally made it.
Yeah, he can finally rest slightly.
Right, so he's taking a moment to rest, and it's the first time in the movie where the sun kind of comes out.
Yeah.
There's color and stuff. I thought that was kind of a cool moment.
That was the moment. You couldn't tell because the lights were still off. I teared up a little bit because I felt for him in that moment, and then the movie ends. My first thought when the movie ended, though, was when he gets back to his unit, he's going to have to explain to his commanding officer where the hell his rifle is. That's out there in the battlefield with the Germans, and they got it. Man, I hope they got spare. I don't know how, the supply guys the ammo guys rode back then in 1917, but these days you lose a rifle, man. It's bad juju. On here, we do star scale to, 1 star to 5 stars. I'll let you be first. You're the guest.
1 to 5.
How many stars would you give 1917?
I think it was really great. I give it 5 stars.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
It's one of those movies that you really see in theater. It's kind of an experience because the storytelling is so unique and the cinematography is so unique, and it's just all done really well. The actors do a great job. Everything looks amazing in the movie. I think it's worth the experience of going to see it. I kind of, feel like it was like the first time. There's certain movies that you see in the theater,
Yeah.
and you're really glad you saw it in theater. For me, The Matrix was one of those.
Yes.
When I saw that in the theater, it was mind blowing.
Yeah, it's different.
It's a unique movie,
Yeah.
one of a kind, and I would put this up there with some kind of experience like that.
Yeah.
Not that it's like The Matrix, but the same kind of experience where I can look back on this and be glad that I saw it in theater and.
The cat type of deal. I can name one movie off the top of my head where they had a continuation of like cinematography like that, and it was the Tony Jaa movie. I think it was The Protector, but it was only in a fight scene, so it only lasted like 5-10 minutes. Do you see more movies like this where you have the continuation of the filming like that?
I hope it influences more movies to do that, because I always liked and I preferred long cuts or long takes, because when you get a fight scene, say like in some of the modern action movies, superhero movies, or especially like the Christopher Nolan, like Batman, or Taken is notorious for having way too many cuts. But
like 30 cuts for damn fence.
But when you have so many cuts, it's hard to follow the action. It's hard to really understand what's going on. And when you pull the camera back and have a long take, it immerses you more, and you do your choreography well, and it winds up just being more believable, and you can actually see what's happening.
Yes.
So I hope it influences more.
I do as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of old kung fu takes, like if you look at like some old Jet Li movies,
they're just continuous take.
They'll have like a long fight scene where there's just good choreography.
Yeah. I would love to see more movies like this, but this movie was great. Jeff, thanks for doing the review with me, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I had fun. I enjoyed the movie. Guys, I highly recommend go see this movie. If you're a veteran, go see this movie. If you're not, go see this movie. This movie is great. A lot of emotion. We probably haven't had any emotional movie like this since watching Robert Downey Jr. die in Endgame. I'm not gonna lie, I still cry like that. Love you guys 3000. Movie was great. All right, guys. Well, that concludes this review. Guys, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be bringing you guys more content just like this. I'll be sure to definitely get Jeff on some more. We're going to be working on getting us a live stream face cam, especially for me, so you guys can finally see my ugly mug. So I'm going to work on that. In the meantime, you guys enjoy the rest of your day, your night, your morning, whatever you listen to this podcast. All right, this is Apollo signing out. As always, take care. And I can't leave without my outro. Apollo. Ow!